za kutolewa katika muda mchache uliopita. Taarifa hizi na zingine unazipata kwenye kurasa zetu za Twitter @TV47KE. Vile vile ingia kwenye Facebook @TV47 Kenya, na vile vile kuingia kwenye tovuti yetu maridadi kabisa ambayo ni www.tv47.co.ke. Wakwetu wananiita Joashon Sare, tunafululiza. Mpenzi mtazamaji, hivi leo chama cha ANC kimemuidhinisha rasmi Musalia Mudavadi kama mgombea wa urais katika uchaguzi wa mwaka 2022. Kupitia katibu mkuu wa chama hicho Barack Muluka, hakuna mwanachama yeyote ambaye sasa anaweza kujitokeza na kuwania urais kwa tiketi ya chama hicho. Isitoshe, Muluka amesema kuwa chama chochote kipo huru katika kuunda muungano na ANC, ila Mudavadi ndiye atakayepeperusha bendera. Sasa Mudavadi yupo huru kutembea nchini na kuomba kura.
Musalia Mudavadi as ANC's presidential flag bearer for the year 2022. It is now therefore official that the highest organ of the party that makes a decision of this kind, the National Governing Council, has now endorsed and given His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi the mandate to go out there whenever it is that the elections will be, to begin soliciting for votes and for support from Kenyans.
NGC hereby mandates the NEC to run the party by making and implementing decisions that would otherwise require the NGC's approval and which are in the best interest of the party in the intervening period before the next formal meeting of the NGC, and for NEC to ensure that such decisions are brought to the next ordinary meeting of NGC for noting.
Na tukisonga mbele, mpenzi mtazamaji, ni kwamba kumeshuhudiwa mzozo katika afisi ya spika wa kaunti ya Nairobi Beatrice Elachi baada ya baadhi ya wakilishi wadi kujaribu kumwondoa afisini kwa lazima. Maafisa wa polisi wa kitengo cha GSU walilazimika kuingilia kati kutuliza hali. Kumekuwa na mzozo wa uongozi jijini Nairobi kati ya mrengo unaounga mkono gavana Mike Sonko na ule wa spika Beatrice Elachi.
I want everybody out. I want everybody out. Lazima court order iwe respected. It must be respected. To respect, na kama polisi kazi yao ni kukataza court order watu wasaviwe, kama polisi kazi yao ni kukataza wrongdoers wasaviwe ama waende jela, let us be told today. Tutakubali. Kama hiyo ndio kazi ya polisi, let us know today. Tuko na court order, tuko na orders from the high court, tuko na orders 30. Lakini leo hii polisi wako hapa wanakataza kuserve court order. The whole of Central Police is here. The OCPD, the OCS, tunaona mpaka General Service Unit. Wamekuja hapa kukataza court order ipeanwe. How? Na walisema wako na numbers.
Acha za fair play. Tuingie bunge tupige vitu zetu bila kuzuiwa.
It's an order. Need to give the court order. Yes, that. You understand? The court order is here and the motion is here. The court order is here. The speaker is inside here. Mimi naona unakata ngoja kidogo, unakataza tupeane court order. Wacha iko on live TV. We are on live TV.
I'm the clerk of the county assembly. I'm the CEO. Yeah. I'm the chief executive of the county.
Kidogo.
Yes.
In court order.
Yes. Kisema kutoka
the CEO court order. I agree with you. The person who want to serve this court order is inside this room. Tafadhali tunakuomba wewe na polisi wako, tunaomba wewe na polisi wako muondoke, tunaserve court order.
Hatuna vita,
hatuna vita. Hapana court order. Hapana. Hatuendi. Tunataka utueleze OCS mbele ya kamera kama kazi yako ni kukataza court order. Na tunaomba
Na mpenzi mtazamaji, kwa taarifa hiyo moja kwa moja sasa tunavuka hadi katika bunge la Seneti kuweza kusikiliza ni yepi yanajiri, ikizingatiwa kwamba utaratibu wa ugavi wa mapato ya kaunti unaendelea kuzua kizungumkuti pale, na moja kwa moja tunavuka pale ili tuweze kusikiliza yatakayojiri, na tutazidi kukujuza katika taarifa zetu za saa 1 na vile vile saa 3. Wakwetu wananiita Joashon Sare na kuacha na kikao hicho, uendelee kumakinika.
Configured to seat a maximum of 28 senators only. I ruled that there shall be no consultations at the Speaker's chair or at the clerk's table, and accordingly it shall be out of order for a senator to approach the Speaker's chair or the clerk's table for this purpose, and that senators shall, while entering and leaving the chamber, observe the social distancing requirements. You will recall that at first the Senate majority and Senate minority leadership were tasked with determining the 28 senators to attend plenary sittings, but following concerns raised on the need for all senators to participate, the Senate Business Committee resolved on 20th May 2020 the arrangements to be made in line with the Ministry of Health protocols and guidelines in social distancing and staying safe to ensure this was achieved. In addition, committees were encouraged to transact business remotely, to request for submission of memoranda remotely, and that no media shall be allowed in physical sittings of committees where it's absolutely necessary to avoid a physical sitting. Subsequently, the new wing launch of the Parliament restaurant was designated as part of the Senate chamber to accommodate the other 40 senators and parliamentary officers, and attendance of plenary sittings from the Senate chamber was open to all senators on a first-come, first-served basis. With the exception of the Deputy Speaker, majority and minority leadership, and senators with disability who would have reserved seats in an effort to reduce the time for the voting process, the ruling made on voting on matters concerning counties was thus varied from roll call voting, as stated in the guidelines issued on 17th April 2020, to 1, electronic voting for senators sitting in the main Senate chamber, and 2, manual voting for those sitting in the extended chamber. Okay, honorable senators, adherence to these guidelines symbolizes that you value your life and those of other people and that of their families. Let us abide by them for our own safety. It is for this reason and for the avoidance of doubt, I direct and reiterate that the health and social distancing protocols as contained in the guidelines issued on 31st March 2020 apply in both the Senate chamber, the new wing restaurant of the Parliament buildings for the plenary sittings, and for all committee meetings. Senators and parliamentary officers are required to strictly adhere to these guidelines, which were purposely developed to contain the spread of COVID-19 in Parliament. Let us ensure that these guidelines are implemented and adhered to by all senators and staff, and it's everyone's responsibility to draw the attention of the Speaker to violations both within and outside the chamber. I thank you. Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for your communication. In view of Standing Order number 40, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to request before you call the next orders that, Mr. Speaker, all of us are anxious about the formula. I plead with you, Mr. Speaker, you arrange the order paper. I've seen the chairman of Finance Committee here. And please, Mr. Speaker, order that we begin with a supplementary order paper, and the motion on the formula is to be debated, so that, Mr. Speaker, you give us enough time to ventilate on this issue. Today is one of those days we don't want 5 minutes, 3 minutes, so that, Mr. Speaker, we can speak to this issue with a lot of time before we go home at 6:30. Mr. Speaker, I pray for your direction.
Praise, I will see it. Senator Onesimus Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, in line with what Senator Mutula said, there has been something that has been bothering me for some time now, Mr. Speaker, is that when Senate is dealing with very important issues like impeachment, like now division of revenue formula, things that the country would like to know our position, and the record of the House needs to reflect the position of most of the senators, we've always reduced ourselves to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and 5 people speaking or 6 people speaking. Mr. Speaker, why don't we, for once, when we have such a very important debate, take the reasonable time for each one of us to explain themselves? Because some of these things are too sensitive that if you were to be told just to vote, people will never understand what informed you are voting. If I look at parliaments in other countries, in the US, in the UK, people sit down even up to midnight for them to really canvass the issues and for their people to follow those issues. Mr. Speaker, going forward, and I'll request your direction, following what Senator Mutula said, we should change this culture as a Senate, because Parliament by itself is about debate, and create enough time for us to explain ourselves in the issues that we are deciding in this country, and to give future generations a proper record, Mr. Speaker, of what we really thought about certain issues in these chambers. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Olekina Ledama.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to support the sentiments of my two colleagues from both sides of the aisle and really request that today, for once, we focus on our debate, so that because everybody in Kenya is watching, and he or she, wherever they are waiting to hear what their senators will say. We receive a lot of communication, and I'd like to really second the proposal by the minority whip that we suspend all the other business and we deal with this issue of the formula until the time that we can exhaust it, even if it means spending the night in these chambers today. Thank you.
Senator Cherargei Samson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a contrary view, because what we are telling Kenyans is that there are some things that are more important than others in our order paper. Mr. Speaker, the order paper has been designed for a specific reason. What we should do, Speaker, upon your guidance, is to ensure we minimize the discussion based on the items that has been put on order paper, by telling the country that since revenue formula is much more important than petitions or other statements of significance, then, Mr. Speaker, we are lying to the nation. Let us stick to the rules that we have created and the standing orders that we have. The revenue formula will come and go, but there are other more important business that we can discuss. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mazayo Stewart.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, nashukuru kwa kunipa nafasi hii. Bwana Spika, jambo la kwanza ambalo pengine ningependelea kulitamka ni kwamba leo kila seneta aliye hapa apewe nafasi ya kuweza kuongea juu ya hoja hii ambayo iko ndani ya bunge la Senate. Bwana Spika, tunazingatia zaidi ya kwamba hoja hii ni hoja ya kitaifa. Kwa hiyo itakuwa kuna umuhimu kila seneta aliyeko hapa apewe nafasi hiyo. La pili ni kwamba kunao nia ya kwamba ikiwa akishamaliza kusoma hoja, yule chairman ambaye ni chairman wa kamati ya fedha, na baadaye inakuwa seconded, nasema ya kwamba hoja hiyo itapata ya kwamba kunao wale watu ambao watataka kufanya mageuzi kidogo kwenye hiyo hoja yake. Nikiwa mimi pengine ni mmoja wao, ningependelea upatie nafasi, ikiwa nafasi hiyo itapatikana, ipeanwe ili mwingine pia naye apate nafasi, kama ni senator yoyote, ya kuweza kama anaweza kufanya mageuzi katika ile hoja, alafu tuendelee kujadiliana juu ya hiyo hoja ya pesa.
Senator Khaniri, I can see a lot of interventions because we are already I want to make a decision so that we move forward. That will be fine.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, I'll need your response on my point of orders. Therefore, I had to wait for you to finish the consultation. Two issues, Mr. Speaker. The first one is on the communication that you just made on control of the spread of COVID. Are you satisfied that Senator Linturi, Senator Commissioner Cheriot, and Senator Falada are properly seated? That's number one, and we'll need. We will need your intervention. The second one, Mr. Speaker, we cannot keep flip-flopping.